This is an example from 8.3. This is solving radical equations. So when you see an equation with an equal sign and you're dealing with a radical, this is how you solve those. First of all, the very most important step is to begin by isolating the radical. So let's write down the steps over here so you can do those in all your problems. Always begin by isolating the radical. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides and add 3 to both sides. So I took the 3 over there and the x over there. And so now I have this. And then just to make this problem easier, since the radical is negative and this is negative, let's go ahead and just multiply the whole equation by a negative. And that's legal as long as you have an equal sign and you do it to both sides. So I'm going to make this term positive and make this term positive and make the 3 negative. Now we can get rid of our radical. And you might remember from 7.6 that you get rid of your radical by squaring both sides. And the key is to square the entire side. So you don't square terms, you square sides. So I'll put that as step number 2. And if it were a cube root, you would cube both sides. So we're going to square both sides. And remember to square the whole side. So on this side, the square and the square root cancel nicely. On this side, I have to FOIL. So I have x minus 3 times itself. And we'll FOIL that. So we've got first, outside, inside, and last. So I added my outside and inside right there. Negative 3x and negative 3x. And on this side, I still have my x minus 1. Now, here's another step that you should know. Whenever you have x squared and you have to solve, you need to set it equal to 0 and factor. And that's what's new. We did this in chapter 7, but we didn't have to factor. So now I'm going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to subtract that x, so I have minus 7x. And I'm going to add that 1, so I have plus 10. Now it's equal to 0. Now I can factor. And you can factor by grouping if you're good at that, or you can do it by trial and error. This one I just happen to be able to see that negative 5 times negative 2 will equal 10 and add up to negative 7. So I'm going to put negative 5 and negative 2 in there. Then we know that we set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And here I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And then let's read that step. So we square both sides and we solve the equation. And usually that includes factor. And then when you have your answers, here's the problem. You might remember from chapter 7 that if you square both sides or raise it to a 4th power or a 6th power, any even power, because it will cancel the negatives, you can get extraneous solutions. So we could have a solution that doesn't work. So we want to make sure that they work. So I'm going to put them back up. Oops, I need to keep my original in there. I'm going to put them back up in my original. So I'm going to have 2 subtract 2 minus 1 minus 3. And we're going to see if that's true. And then I'm going to check 5. 5 subtract the square root of 5 minus 1 minus 3 equals 0. So just putting those in wherever you see the x and checking it. So I have 2 minus the square root of 1 minus 3 equals 0. And we know that the square root of 1 is 1. So putting that in, now I have 2 subtract 4. And that does not equal 0. So that is not a solution. But here I have 5 subtract the square root of 4 minus 3 equals 0. So I get 5 subtract 2 subtract 3 equals 0. And that is true. So that is our solution. Now I like this question because on a multiple choice test they could say A, x equals 2 and 5. B, x equals 2. C, x equals 5. Oops, you can't see my writing. Let's see. Let me shut the blind. That's kind of hard to see. There, hopefully that's a little better to see. So you need to pick the one that works. You need to remember to try it and pick the right answer on your final exam. So just be careful, and hopefully that made sense. And oh, let's put that in our steps. So solve for the equation, and then the last thing don't forget to do is check for extraneous solutions. All right, see you later.